I I'm in bed now. Yesterday and today, low pressure, light rain, high humidity, and even in good weather, I have like a head cold. It's not really a head cold, but it's just my immune system is that low. And I took over 30 garlic pills, and this time it really didn't work. So then I went to the liquid garlic, which I don't recommend because it's very hard on the stomach. But anyway, I can handle it, and I did that. And Dan made me a chicken soup. But what I really want, when I'm not well, I go into flashback memories. And what I want to talk about today as a discussion is MCS and the search for a cure. Well, learn from the mistakes of others because, quite frankly, you may not live long enough to make them all your own. And that's a saying in AA, and it still holds true. The fact is that when we get desperate, we do things that are extremely dangerous and highly risky. And the fact that, if we push something that we think is working for us, but it may not work for somebody else and they could die. So you really have to be very cautious about what you're talking about. I spent years in the wrong direction. First of all, I researched my history, my ancestry. I thought if I could figure out what they ate that made them well, that maybe I could figure out what would make me well. But and that sent me off on a wild goose chase. And I want to tell you, between the one side of the family with the Russian Cossack and part Mongolian, there was nothing there that was particularly helpful because my Russian grandmother actually cooked for me when I was a child and never made me well. So that was kind of a silly idea. Now, my French grandmother, I was always well, but it wasn't just the food. What I didn't realize is that in today's world, their food was organic. They didn't use herbicides and pesticides, but I didn't know that. And I didn't find that out till I was 72. Nobody told me how bad the pesticides are in the North American diet. And some foods don't have as much pesticide, so I didn't react to those. But I honestly didn't know the difference. And there's only one doctor today that talks about organic, and that's Dr. X. But, this is 37 years later. I'm 80 years old. So, and not only that, my ancestors had been here since 1636. Some of them married Native Indians, our Aborigine Native Indians, and their origin was Normandy, which is a combination of German, French, and Viking. So that diet wasn't going to be particularly helpful. And other people were doing all kinds of drug treatments and supplements that frankly are chemicals. They're not food. And there was talk of a chelating therapy for me way back in 86, very early on. And Dr. Kropp said, once he looked at my history, the fact that I infect easily, I don't heal, he said it would kill me. Okay? Because there are risks. And I don't have heavy metal poisoning either. That's not part of my history. Yes, my first attack was 6 years old from sulfuric acid and gas, oil, and diesel. But that's not heavy metal. And that's not uranium. So be careful, what you tell people to do. And if you're listening and you're desperate, you just may go out and do it and kill yourself. So I wanted to research through food, through something that was safe. And I've successfully done that. But it took me decades in the wrong direction with misinformation from health groups all over the world. Because everybody thinks they've got all the answers. Well, you know what? No two of us is exactly the same. And you have to figure out what really poisons you in the first place, what your immune system is, and if you can find a doctor to help you, that's wonderful. But tragically, most of us can't because the governments are denying that we're being poisoned. So while I'm sitting here not feeling well, I'm having all these flashbacks to all these crazy things that I tried and that made me so sick and did me more harm than good. I remember one health food man. Oh, I was so mad I could have gotten a gun and shot him. I was so mad. He put me on something that had mistletoe. Well, if you look that up, it clearly states not to be used by pregnant women or children. Well, if it's toxic to somebody pregnant and to children, we shouldn't be trying it. And he gave me a whole lot of stuff like that, but that was the last one. I was so mad at him. I screamed and cursed at him in his store. And his wife apologized, but I said, how could you be so dumb? And another health food store, Ray, hope he died a slow and painful death. He was giving me water in soft plastic, distilled water in soft plastic. And I had a media article in Sudbury, and a man that lives out in Blizzard Valley read it, and he called me and he said, I want to see what you're drinking. And he'd done some research because he had a handicapped brother in a wheelchair who was immune deficient and had a lot of allergies. So he saw the bottled water and he said, my God, this is leaching plastic into the water. And he took it and he put it on the stove and brought it to a boil. And sure enough, there was this horrible white sludge. And I'd been drinking that for, I don't know, maybe a year and a half. I didn't know. And of course, I wasn't getting better. And I became terminal in 1989. I would go get well, and then I would get terminal, and then I would go well, and then I would go terminal because I was constantly being poisoned. My mother poisoned me, my father poisoned me, my friends poisoned me, my community poisoned me. The list was endless. And the fact that I'm still here and so many like me died, tragic and completely unnecessary, all that suffering, because there's so much misinformation out there. So I just want to say, be careful. Don't run around trying this and that. If it's not safe for a 2-year-old child, don't mess with it unless you have a proper clinic that's working with you. And eventually, I did get scientists to work with me. But imagine, not one of them said anything about organic. Now, why was I so well in Wasaga Beach? Well, I had local farmers, and they didn't call it organic. They were just farmers like they'd been for the last 300 years, and they didn't use pesticides and herbicides. And I bought from them. And I had a group of sort of like Quakers, and they didn't use any of that junk. So, this is all with hindsight. I didn't realize. I was so busy looking at the science. And we sure don't need more research because there's been enough since 1775. What we need is more action. So anyway, I just want to say hi to all of you out there with allergies and CS and Parkinsonism, be very careful about listening to people that aren't scientists. What one person survives and it works for them, well, okay, maybe. But that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. We're all different. And you really need to stick to what's safe. Now, I'm getting very worried about some of the recommendations out there really pushing for stuff that can be really toxic. Okay, so I may get some snow tomorrow, so I should probably be okay by tomorrow and hope to have a better day. Once I start skiing, you're not going to hear from me because I'm going to be out there having a good time. But if you have any questions or you want any research done, believe me, I've been at this for 37 years. There's not much I can't find out. So feel free to contact me. Okay, over and out. Bye, and have a good day.